Part 1. The sky above Zenthera burned red as the last warship disappeared behind the Ash Mountains. King Vorlak stood alone on his palace balcony, claws gripping the stone railing until it cracked. His daughter Lyra had not returned with the fleet. For 7 long cycles no word had come. The eastern front had fallen to the Krell swarm, and reports said no one survived. Vorlak, a warrior of ancient blood with storm-gray scales and eyes sharp from centuries of command, had sent Lyra not because she was his child, but because she was the Empire's finest tactician. Now he carried her loss like a stone in his chest. The court whispered the royal line would end with him. He did not argue. On the 8th cycle, a strange shuttle dropped through the toxic clouds. It was battered, patched with emergency sealant and not of Zentheran make. Alarms blared. Guards rushed to the landing pad, weapons ready. Vorlak marched down the grand stairs, heart pounding between hope and dread. The ramp hissed open. Lyra stepped out, armor dented and stained with dried ichor, but standing tall. Behind her came a small, pale figure wrapped in a tattered thermal blanket, a human woman. The court gasped. Humans were myths, soft creatures from a distant blue world, too fragile to survive basic pressure. Yet here one stood, trembling but alive under Zenthera's red sun. Vorlak's voice rolled across the plaza. "Daughter, you live." Lyra knelt. "Father, I return with more than my life. I return with truth." She rose and placed a gentle hand on the human's shoulder. The woman flinched, then steadied under Lyra's calm gaze. "This is Claire. She saved me. And maybe our whole species," murmurs spread. The king narrowed his eyes. "Explain." Lyra spoke without pause. "During the battle, her ship was crippled by a Krell biomine. She ejected in a pod and crashed deep in the Deadlands, a poisoned wasteland from old wars. There, dying from wounds and Krell spores, she expected to perish alone. But Claire found her. Claire had been on a deep space survey mission. Her ship, the Odyssey, was pulled off course by a gravity anomaly and stranded in Zentheran space. Her crew died in the crash, but she survived using her knowledge of xenobiology. For weeks, she scavenged alone until she found Lyra's pod. She had no weapon," Lyra said, voice thick. "No armor, only a med kit, and will stronger than any warrior I know. She cleaned my wounds with filtered water. She fought off Krell scouts with a flare in her voice. She kept me alive 12 days. Vorlak studied Claire. She met his gaze, knees shaking but eyes steady. That alone earned his respect. "Why help her?" he asked. Claire swallowed, then spoke in rough Zentheran. "Because she was hurt. Because no one should die alone." The court fell silent. Such simplicity was strange to their honor-bound culture. Yet it rang true. Vorlak ordered Claire to the healing chambers. As medics worked, Lyra revealed more. The Krell were evolving. Not mindless beasts, but coordinated, using captured Zentheran tech immune to their bioweapons. But Claire noticed something in the Deadlands. The Krell avoided certain fungi near geothermal vents. She collected samples, analyzed them with her broken scanner, and found an enzyme that disrupted Krell neural clusters. "She gave me the formula before we reached the capital," Lyra said. "I sent it to our science fleet. They confirmed it works. It can end this war." Vorlak stared at the frail human who changed everything. He had measured strength by scale and claw, by roar and rage. But here was quiet power, clever, kind, unshaken. He called the High Council. Production began at once. Within days, the tide turned. The Krell retreated from 3 systems. The Empire breathed again. But not all were pleased. General Kor, a rival of Vorlak's, sneered. "A soft skin dictates our fate. She will weaken us. She knows nothing of our ways." Vorlak silenced him with a look. "She understands survival better than you." Still, Kor plotted. He saw Claire as a stain on their honor. He gathered loyalists, whispering she was a spy, her cure a trap. One night, he sent assassins to the guest wing. Lyra sensed danger. She'd posted guards, but Kor's men were cunning. They disabled sensors and slipped through vents. Claire woke to shadows moving in the dark. Before they struck, Lyra burst in, plasma blade flashing. The fight was fast and brutal. Lyra took a wound to her side but killed 2 attackers. The third fled, but not before Lyra saw his crest, Kor's personal guard. Bleeding, she dragged herself to her father's chamber. Vorlak rose in fury. He summoned Kor at once. In the throne room before the entire court, Vorlak accused the general of treason. Kor denied it, but the captured assassin confessed under truth serum. Evidence was clear. "You would murder an ally who saved our people," Vorlak roared. "You are no warrior. You are a coward in armor. Kor was stripped of rank and exiled to the ice wastes. Peace returned to the palace, but the lesson remained. Not all enemies wore Krell faces. As weeks passed, Claire grew stronger. She learned more Xantheran, shared stories of Earth. Oceans, forests, cities glowing at night. Xantherans listened, fascinated. Children brought her strange fruits. Elders asked about human music. Slowly, she became more than a guest. She became a bridge. Vorlak watched this change with quiet pride. One evening, he found Claire and Lyra in the Garden of Echoes where bioluminescent vines hummed with memory song. "You will stay?" he asked, not as king, but as father. Claire looked at Lyra, then the stars. "My home is far, but I have found something here too." Lyra smiled, a rare softness on her sharp face. "We could use your mind, and your heart," Vorlak nodded. "Then let it be known. Claire of Earth is under the crown's protection. Her deeds shall be sung, her name remembered, the empire healed, the war faded. And in the palace heart, a human walked beside an alien princess, not as stranger but as family." Life in the Xantheran palace settled into a new rhythm. Claire no longer jumped at the sound of heavy footsteps or the low hum of alien machinery. She had a room near the eastern gardens where the air smelled of sweet moss and the walls pulsed gently with living light. Lyra visited her every morning, bringing strange fruits and scrolls filled with star charts. They talked for hours, about Earth, about Xanthera, about the silence between stars. Claire learned quickly. Her mind was sharp and she asked questions no Xantheran would dare ask. Why did they bury their dead in crystal tombs instead of returning them to the soil? Why did their warriors paint their claws before battle, but never their faces? Lyra laughed at these questions, not in mockery but with delight. "You see things we have forgotten to notice," she said. Vorlak watched from a distance. He saw how his daughter's posture softened when Claire spoke. He saw how courtiers who once sneered now lingered near Claire's door, hoping for a story or a smile. Something was changing in the empire, and it began with one small human. But peace was fragile. Far beyond the capital, Krell scouts still prowled the outer systems. Their attacks had lessened, but they had not stopped. Worse, their tactics had shifted. They no longer charged blindly. Now they waited, watched, learned. It was as if they were studying the Xantherans as closely as Claire had studied them. One evening, a distress signal crackled through the war chamber. Outpost Virak, a mining colony on the edge of the ash belt, had gone dark. Sensors showed no explosions, no energy surges, just silence. Lyra volunteered to lead a rescue mission at once. Claire insisted on going too. "You are not a soldier," Vorlak said, his voice heavy with concern. "I am a scientist," she replied. "And if the Krell are changing, I might see something your warriors miss." Vorlak looked to Lyra. His daughter nodded. "She is right, father. Her eyes see differently." So Claire boarded the warship Duskfang with Lyra and 30 elite guards. The journey took 2 cycles. During that time, Claire studied every report from Virek. The colony had been excavating deep geothermal vents similar to those in the Deadlands where she'd found the anti-Krell fungus. A cold thought settled in her chest. When they arrived, the outpost was eerily intact. No blast marks, no broken walls. The gate stood open. Inside, tools lay where workers had dropped them. Meals sat half-eaten on tables. But no bodies, no blood, nothing. "They were taken," Lyra whispered, claws flexing. Claire knelt by a cooling cup of nutrient broth. She touched the rim, then sniffed the air. Faint, almost gone, but she knew it. The same fungal scent from the Deadlands. "They weren't taken," she said slowly. "They were lured." She led Lyra to the main vent shaft. Deep below, a soft green glow pulsed. The Krell had planted the same fungus Claire had discovered, but altered. This version released a spore that didn't kill. It calmed. It made minds open, trusting, easy to guide. "They're using our own weapon against us," Claire said, voice tight. Before they could retreat, the ground trembled. Krell emerged, not from ships but from tunnels beneath the outpost. They moved silently, their black carapaces glistening, but something was different. Their eyes glowed faintly blue and they carried no weapons. Instead, they held small emitters pulsing with the same green light. Lyra raised her blade. "Fall back," but Claire grabbed her arm. "Wait, they're not attacking. They're offering." One Krell stepped forward. It placed a smooth stone on the ground, a Xantheran mourning stone carved with the names of the missing colonists. Then it bowed its head. Lyra stared. "What is this they want to talk?" Claire said, heart racing. They've evolved past war, or someone taught them to. The Krell did not speak in words, but through the emitters, images flooded the minds of the Xantharans. Memories, fears, hopes. The Krell were not a hive. They were refugees. Their homeworld had been destroyed long ago by a force far worse than the Xantharans. They had been running, hiding, adapting. The war was never about conquest. It was about survival. Claire understood then. The Krell hadn't been attacking. They had been testing, seeing if the Xantharans were worth trusting. Lyra lowered her blade. We cannot decide this alone. We must return to the king. The Krell let them go. They even returned 3 colonists, unharmed, confused, but alive. On the journey back, Claire barely slept. She replayed the visions in her mind. The Krell's pain was real. Their fear was deeper than rage. When they landed, Vorlak met them on the pad. He listened without interruption as Claire and Lyra spoke. Then he was silent for a long time. If this is true, he finally said, then we have been the monsters all along. The court erupted in protest. General Torvak, Kor's former second-in-command, shouted that it was a trick. They are playing on human weakness, he growled. Soft hearts make soft empires, but Vorlak raised a claw. We will meet them, not as enemies, as equals. Preparations began. A neutral zone was chosen, a barren moon between Xantharan and Krell space. Claire would go as envoy with Lyra as her guard. Many called it madness. A human speaking for an empire of warriors. The day of the meeting arrived. Claire wore a simple robe woven with threads of peace-glow moss. She carried no weapon, only a data slate with Earth's history of war and reconciliation. The Krell arrived in a single organic vessel, shaped like a curled leaf. Their leader stepped out. It was taller than the others, its carapace etched with silver lines. It carried no emitter. Instead it spoke, halting, broken Xantharan, learned from captured transmissions. We do not want fight, it said. We want home. Claire stepped forward. We can help you find one. The talks lasted 3 days. Claire translated not just words but meaning. She explained Xantharan honor, their fear of weakness, their need for strength. She told the Krell about Earth's own wars, how humans had nearly destroyed themselves before learning to listen. Slowly, trust grew. In the end, an agreement was reached. The Krell would leave Xantharan space. In return, the Empire would share data on habitable worlds beyond the Void Rim. They would not be allies, not yet. But they would not be enemies. As the Krell ship departed, Lyra put a hand on Claire's shoulder. You did what no warrior could. Claire shook her head. I just reminded everyone that listening is also a kind of strength. Back in the palace, Vorlak called a grand assembly. He declared a new era, one where knowledge mattered as much as claws, where mercy was not weakness but wisdom. He named Claire advisor to the crown, a title never before given to an outsider. That night, Claire stood on the same balcony where Vorlak had mourned his daughter's loss. Now she looked out not as a stranger, but as someone who belonged. The red sky no longer felt hostile. It felt like home and far away. In the deep dark, the Krell began their journey not to conquer but to heal. Thanks to one human who dared to believe that even monsters might just be lost. The seasons turned on Xanthara, and the red sun cast longer shadows over the palace. Claire no longer needed a translator. She spoke Xantharan with ease, her voice soft but sure. Children ran to her in the halls, calling her Aunt Claire in their rough, excited tones. She taught them how to draw stars not as points of light but as places with names and stories. Lyra watched these lessons with quiet pride. Her father, King Vorlak, often stood at a distance, arms crossed, but his eyes held warmth, yet peace like glass could still shatter. A message came from the outer rim, not from the Krell but from a human ship. It was faint, broken by static, but clear enough. This is Captain Daniels of the ISV Mariposa. We are lost. Low on power. Please respond. Claire's heart stopped. Humans. Real, living humans from her own world. She had not heard a human voice in years. Tears filled her eyes as she played the message again and again. Vorlak saw her reaction. You wish to answer it. I have to, she said. They might be hurt, scared, alone. Lyra agreed at once. We will go, together. The Whisper Wing was prepared again, this time with extra supplies. Food, medicine, even Earth-style rations Claire had helped recreate from memory. The journey took 6 cycles. Each day, Claire checked the comms, hoping for another signal. None came. When they found the Mariposa, it was drifting near a dead moon, engines dark, hull pitted with micrometeor scars. A single escape pod was missing. The ship was empty except for one survivor, a young woman named Morgan, barely 20, curled in the med bay with a broken leg and fever. Claire rushed to her side. "It's okay," she whispered in English. "You're safe now." Morgan's eyes fluttered open. You're human." "Yes," Claire said, smiling through tears. "And you're not alone." Back on the Whisper Wing, Morgan recovered slowly. She told her story. The Mariposa had been part of a new deep-range mission, testing faster than light drives. Something went wrong near a black hole's edge. They were thrown off course far beyond known space. The crew tried to send distress calls, but no one answered. Until now. "We thought we were the only humans left in this part of the galaxy," Morgan said, staring at the Xantheran walls with awe. Claire explained everything. How she came to Xanthera, how she stayed, how she helped build peace. Morgan listened wide-eyed. "You're a hero," she whispered. "No," Claire said gently. "I just did what felt right." When they returned to Xanthera, the court was uneasy. Humans were no longer myth, but now they were real and vulnerable. Some feared they would bring chaos. Others worried Earth would send warships demanding Claire's return. Vorlak addressed the concern himself. "This girl is a guest, not a threat. And if Earth seeks her, they will find friends, not enemies." Morgan adapted quickly. She was curious, brave, and full of questions. She learned Xantheran faster than Claire had. She even tried warrior drills with the young guards, laughing when she tripped over her own feet. Lyra took a liking to her. "She has your spirit," she told Claire one evening. But trouble followed. Weeks later, a second human ship appeared, not lost but armed. The USS Liberty. It broadcast a clear message. "Return our citizens now." Captain Reyes stood on the view screen, stern-faced in a crisp uniform. "Claire Evans and Morgan Ellis, you are ordered to come aboard. Your presence here is a violation of Earth security protocol." Claire stepped forward. "We are not prisoners. We are guests, and we choose to stay." "Earth doesn't recognize alien sovereignty over human lives," Reyes snapped. "Prepare for boarding." Vorlak's eyes glowed with anger, but Claire stopped him. "Let me talk to her alone." In a secure comms room, Claire spoke plainly. "Captain, I know you're following orders, but you don't understand what's happening here. This empire is changing. Because of us. Because of humans." She shared everything, the Krell piece, the Draxian standoff, the gardens blooming with new life. "If you take us back, you don't just lose two people. You lose a bridge between worlds." Reyes was silent for a long time. Then she sighed. "My orders say bring you home, but my gut says you're where you need to be." She powered down her weapons. "I'll report that you're safe, that you chose to stay, but I can't promise Earth won't send someone else." "Then we'll be ready," Claire said. The Liberty left quietly. Morgan chose to stay too. "Earth feels small now," she admitted.
"Here, I can help build something bigger." Vorlak declared a new policy.
Any human who came to Xanthera in peace would be welcomed. Any who came with threats would be met with calm strength. It was a balance, honor and openness. Claire and Morgan worked together, creating a small archive of human knowledge, books, music, medical data. They shared it freely with Xantheran scholars. In return, the Xantherans taught them about star navigation, bioengineering, and the songs of the crystal forests. One night, as the three women, Claire, Lyra, and Morgan sat under the red sky, Morgan asked, "Do you ever miss Earth?" Claire looked at the twin moons rising. "I miss the smell of rain, the sound of birds. But home isn't just a place. It's the people who see you, really see you, and still choose to stand beside you." Lyra placed a hand on hers. Morgan leaned her head on Claire's shoulder. In that moment, under alien stars, they were family, and far away, across the endless dark, Earth remained. But it no longer held their hearts. Those belonged to Xanthera now, to a future built not by force but by choice, trust, and the quiet courage of those who dared to stay. Months passed, and the fragile peace held. The Krell vanished into the outer void, following the star maps shared by the Xantheran science fleet. Claire's role in the palace grew. She no longer ate alone. Elders sought her advice on matters of diplomacy. Young warriors asked her how humans trained their minds without claws or armor. She taught them games from Earth, chess, riddles, even simple songs. They listened with wide eyes as if she carried magic in her voice. But not all change came easily. Deep in the lower districts of the capital, unrest stirred. Old warriors grumbled that the empire was becoming soft. They missed the roar of battle, the certainty of enemies. Some whispered that Claire was poisoning the king's mind with human weakness. These whispers found ears in the merchant houses, who feared trade routes would shift if the empire turned from war to talk. One morning, a shipment of peace glow moss used in healing and ceremonies arrived rotten and foul-smelling. The gardeners were baffled. The moss had been healthy when packed. Claire examined it and found traces of a synthetic inhibitor, something designed to kill Xantheran flora without harming human plants. Someone was testing the limits of sabotage. Lyra tightened security, but Claire urged caution. If we react with force, we prove their point that we've lost our way, she said. Instead, she invited the head merchants to a meal. She served them earth food, simple bread, fruit, clean water, and spoke plainly. I do not want to replace your ways. I only want to add to them. To her surprise, the oldest merchant, a scarred female named Hessa, nodded slowly. You eat like a scout on patrol, light, quick, no waste. Maybe there is wisdom in that. Still, tension simmered. Then came the signal from the Void Rim. A deep space probe launched weeks earlier to track the Krell's new path, sent back a final burst before going silent. The data was fragmented, but clear enough. The Krell had found a world lush, warm, rich with water. But they were not alone. Another species was there, armed, aggressive, and already burning Krell outposts. Claire recognized the ship designs from old human archives. The Draxians, a nomadic war culture, once encountered by early Earth explorers. They believed only the strong deserved to live. They saw mercy as disease. Vorlak called an emergency council. We made a promise, he said. If the Krell are under attack, we cannot look away. Torvak slammed his fist on the table. They are not our kin. Let them fight their own wars. We gave them the map, Lyra said coldly. We sent them into danger. Claire stood. The Draxians do not just kill. They enslave. If they take the Krell, they will learn about us. About Xanthera. And they will come here next. The room fell quiet. The threat was real. Vorlak made his choice. We send a ship. Not a war fleet. A rescue mission. Small, fast, unseen. Claire and Lyra would go again. This time, they took only 12 warriors and a stealth cruiser named Whisperwing. The journey would take 5 cycles. During that time, Claire studied everything known about the Draxians. They valued strength above all, but they also respected cunning. Deception was honorable if it led to victory. Then we will not fight them head-on, Claire said. We will trick them. When they arrived at the Krell's new world, the sky was thick with smoke. 3 Draxian cruisers orbited the planet, firing on Krell shelters below. The Krell were hiding in deep caves using the same calming fungus to mask their presence. Claire had an idea. She asked the Xantheran techs to modify the Whisperwing signal. Instead of hiding, they would broadcast a false identity. A damaged Draxian scout begging for help. It was risky, but the Draxians were proud. They would not ignore a call from their own. The plan worked. One Draxian ship broke formation and moved closer. As it hailed them, Lyra's warriors launched a swarm of micro-drones. Not weapons, jamming devices. They flooded the Draxian ship's systems with noise, blinding its sensors for just 30 seconds. In that time, Claire sent a message down to the planet, not in Xantheran or Krell, but in Draxian code, pieced together from old Earth records. It read, The strong do not crush the weak. They test them. Leave this world. Prove your honor. To everyone's shock, the Draxian ship paused. Then it turned and rejoined its fleet. Moments later, all 3 ships jumped to warp. Silence returned to the sky. The Krell emerged from their caves. Their leader, the same one from the peace talks, approached Claire. It placed a hand on its chest, then pointed to her, a gesture of deep gratitude. You spoke their tongue, it said, voice rough with emotion. You used their pride as a shield, Claire smiled. Sometimes words are sharper than blades. They helped the Krell rebuild. Claire showed them how to reinforce shelters with layered rock and fungus, creating natural camouflage. Lyra trained their young in defensive tactics, not for war, but for protection. The Krell learned fast. On the journey home, Lyra asked, How did you know the Draxians would listen? Because no warrior wants to be seen as cruel, Claire said. Only as strong. I gave them a way to leave and still feel powerful. When they returned to Xanthera, the mood had shifted. News of their success spread fast. Even Torvak could not deny the result. No lives lost, no battle fought, yet a threat removed. The merchants who once doubted now sent gifts: fine cloth, rare spices, even a small statue carved in Claire's likeness. Vorlak held a ceremony in the grand hall. He did not speak of victory, but of wisdom. "We have learned that strength is not only in the claw, but in the choice," he said. "And today we choose to grow." That night, Claire walked through the palace gardens. The peace glow moss had been replanted, and it shimmered softly in the dark. Lyra joined her, silent for a long time. "You could go back to Earth, you know," Lyra said finally. "With our help, we could find a way." Claire looked up at the stars. "Earth is my past, this is my future," Lyra nodded. "Then I'm glad you are here." Far above, the stars burned steady and cold. But on Xanthera, something warm was growing. A new kind of empire, built not on fear, but on understanding. And at its heart stood a human woman who had taught warriors how to listen. Years flowed like river currents through the halls of the Xantharan palace. Claire's hair had streaks of silver now, and her steps were slower. But her mind remained sharp. Morgan had grown into a respected teacher, running the first human Xantharan learning circle in the capital. Lyra, now heir to the throne, carried herself with the calm strength of a leader who had seen war and chosen peace. And King Vorlak, though older, still stood tall, his eyes proud when he watched the three women walk together through the gardens. The empire had changed. Trade ships from neutral worlds now docked openly. The Krell, settled on their new world, sent gifts of rare fungi and star maps. Even the Draxians, years later, had sent a single envoy, not to fight but to observe. They left quietly, but not before nodding in respect to Claire. But change always brings new tests. A strange signal began to pulse from the galactic core, a rhythm no one recognized. It was not a message. It was a call. Deep, ancient, and repeating every 7 hours. The Xantharan science fleet could not decode it. Neither could Claire's old Earth databases. It felt alive, like a heartbeat from the center of the galaxy. Then outposts on the inner rim started going silent. Not destroyed. Not attacked. Just empty. No signs of struggle. No bodies. Only the same faint hum in the air, the same rhythm as the signal. Fear spread. Whispers returned. Some said it was a weapon. Others claimed it was a god waking up. Torvak, now an old advisor but still sharp-tongued, urged Vorlak to seal the borders, to prepare for war. But Claire believed differently. "It's not hostile," she said during a council meeting. "It's searching." She remembered something from Earth's deep-sea research, how whales sang across oceans not to threaten but to find each other. What if this is the same, a call from something lost? Vorlak looked at his daughter. Lyra nodded. "We should answer. Not with weapons, with a voice," so they built a reply. Claire combined human music, simple piano notes, a child's lullaby, with Xantharan harmonic chants and Krell memory tones. They broadcast it toward the core. For days, nothing happened. Then the signal changed. It slowed, softened, and a new pattern emerged. A question. Claire's hands shook as she decoded it. "It's asking, 'Are you alone?'" They sent back a new message. "Not just Xantharan or human, but all voices together," Morgan sang. Lyra chanted. Claire played a recording of Earthbirds at dawn. Even Vorlak added the royal war horn, not in challenge but in greeting. The response came instantly. The hum grew warm, and from the core a single object emerged, a sphere of smooth, dark metal no larger than a person. It drifted toward Xanthera without engines, without sound. It stopped just outside the capital's shield. Claire insisted on meeting it alone. Lyra refused at first, but Claire said, "If this is a test, it must be taken in trust." She floated out in a small shuttle, no weapons, no armor. The sphere waited. As she drew near, it opened, not with a crack, but like a flower blooming. Inside was no machine, no creature, only light. And in that light, images formed. It showed the birth of stars, the rise and fall of civilizations, wars that burned galaxies, and quiet moments where one being helped another across a broken bridge. It showed Earth. It showed Xanthera. It showed the Krell hiding in caves. It showed Claire kneeling in the Deadlands saving Lyra. "You are not alone," the light seemed to say. "You never were." The sphere was a messenger, an ancient network of watchers left behind by a race so old they had turned to stardust. Their purpose was simple: find those who chose kindness over conquest and connect them. When Claire returned, tears streamed down her face. "We've been seen," she whispered. "And we passed." The sphere stayed in orbit, now a silent guardian. Over time, other signals answered. From distant worlds, hidden colonies, even a moon where plant-like beings grew cities from living wood. The galaxy was full of life, waiting for someone to listen. Claire knew her time was short. Her body tired more easily now. One evening, she sat with Lyra and Morgan in the Garden of Echoes. The vines hummed softly, remembering every word ever spoken there. "When I'm gone," Claire said gently, "don't mourn me. Keep building. Keep listening." Lyra held her hand. "You taught us how." Morgan smiled through tears. "You gave us a home among the stars." Claire died peacefully in her sleep, surrounded by the people she loved. The Empire mourned, but not in silence. They sang human songs, Xantheran chants, even Krell memory tones. Her body was placed in a crystal tomb, not buried but lifted into the sky on a ship of light, as was the new custom she had inspired. Years later, Lyra became queen. She ruled with wisdom learned from a human who believed in second chances. Morgan led the Interstellar Learning Circle, now joined by students from a dozen worlds, and in the palace gardens, children played beneath the red sun, telling stories of the small Earth woman who taught warriors how to listen. Far above, the ancient sphere still watched, and in the quiet between stars the galaxy sang a little louder, because one human had dared to answer.